we good.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get things started. You guys, we have guests in the audience again today, which is awesome. When I say the guest, when I say your name, if you don't mind standing up and giving everybody a wave. Let's start out with Joshua McGee. He is a guest of Ernie and Sally Montaigne. We have Mitch Piesek here. He is a guest and prospective member of Mark Urban. Mitch. And we also have Sandra Solial here. She is a guest of Danielle Valliere. Also, hello and welcome to all of you who are tuning in virtually. So with that, we're going to get the program started. Today, introducing our keynote speaker, we have the lovely Jeannie Flower. She is with RBC Financial Services. She is a color contest extraordinaire, and she is also she'll be on the board. She's on the upcoming slate for the board of directors. So we are glad to have you here, Jeannie.
I have the distinct privilege of introducing our speaker. Carolyn Niethammer learned to love and understand the West growing up in Prescott, Arizona. She went to the U of A and earned a journalism degree, after which she has spent the rest of her life writing books about food and the people of the Southwest in award-winning ethnobotanies, which I had to practice with her before I got up here, cookbooks and biographies. Her first book was about wild plants, which I can't wait to learn more about. She leads Tucson Gastronomy. Gastronomy tours covering everything from edible wild plants to the latest farm-to-table restaurant offerings with heritage ingredients. Her latest book, her 11th book, A Desert Feast Celebrating Tucson's Culinary Heritage, is an answer to why Tucson was named a Unesco City of Gastronomy. Would you please welcome Carolyn Meadhammer.
Thank you, everybody, for inviting me. The opportunity to talk about your new book is always a great joy, of course. Now, I was offered the opportunity to put together a PowerPoint. And although my new book, Desert Feast, does have 100 gorgeous photos, I decided sometimes you get hung up in technology, and I didn't want to use my 20 minutes dealing with, oh no, go back to that one, no. So instead we're going to do it the old-fashioned way, and I'm just going to tell you a story. Tucson was named UNESCO City of Gastronomy about 5 years ago. And the local reaction varied from, of course, we have the best tacos everywhere, and the chimichangas, of course, to other people who said, how can that possibly be? We don't even have one restaurant with one Michelin star. How can that possibly be? How can we possibly be a city of gastronomy? In fact, the designation, City of Gastronomy, made by a UNESCO committee, really has a little bit to do with the tacos, but nothing to do with the restaurants. The designation, UNESCO City of Gastronomy, is given, what they look at, the criteria, is the living cultural heritage and the entire food system. Now, as the introducer said, I have been spending most of my life writing about food of the area, particularly edible wild plants and early food systems. And like most of you, I've probably heard about the early corn, beans, and squash, the three sisters. But interestingly, corn, beans, and squash weren't always here. 5,000 years ago in our area, and in actually all of North America, north of Mexico, people were eating nothing but edible wild plants and wild game. There were no villages even. people would just wander around from cactus fruits in season, and then they'd wander down where the acorns were. Then, about 4,000 years ago, 2100 BC, something very interesting happened. Corn had been developed farther south in Mexico from a wild grass, and it made its way up to the Santa Cruz Valley. And this was a big change. Now, corn needs people to grow. It doesn't reseed itself. So if the people were going to grow corn, it meant they had to hang around for a while, at least during the corn growing season, which is spring through summer. And so the very earliest villages began to form. Now this didn't happen all of a sudden. There was no agricultural tradition here, and the people had to learn how to do it. Now, I don't know how many of you out there are gardeners. I'm a gardener. I'm a pretty good gardener. But sometimes I plant seeds and they don't come up. And I have no idea why. Or sometimes they come up but they never quite produce. And I never know why either. And I have lots of people to tell me what I'm doing wrong. So it took a long, long time for people to get it. And I'm talking hundreds of years. So, 600-700 years to get it. These days when we have new iPhones every 6 months, it's hard for us to realize how long those changes happen. Then somewhere along the line, about 500 or 600 years later, someone had the genius idea of irrigation. Now irrigation had been present in the Middle East and the Far East for hundreds of years by that time. But things that seemed like a no-brainer to us, when they were first invented, that is a genius idea. You didn't have to take your basket, go down to the Santa Cruz, get some water, haul it up to your corn patch. Aha, we could dig a ditch. And after that, the local people became marvelous irrigation builders and farmers. And I don't know if, we call them the early agriculturalists. And I don't know if many of you remember just a few years ago when they were building the new bridge across I-10 and they were doing the archaeology and they found those footprints in the mud. Those were the early archaeologists, and they were the reason they were out there that day. The farmer and his little child was that there had been a heavy rainfall the day before, and they were out there fixing their irrigation ditches, and that was a really, really wonderful story. Now, so we just have corn, but we don't have squash yet. That didn't come until about 1,500 years later, about 500 BC. So we begin to see evidence of squash. Now, the thing about corn and squash is they can be cooked just over an open fire. You just have your coals and you put them down, or maybe wrap them in some leaves and roast them. We have no beans yet. Why don't we have any beans? No pots. It wasn't until 500 AD when the Hohokam culture arose around here, and there are sure a lot of Hohokam villages when people finally got to the cultural level that they had pottery and a pot that was adequate to cook some beans. And beans have to be cooked. You know, if you don't cook beans, probably you're going to get a tummy ache. So they needed to be cooked. So finally we have corn, squash, and beans. The Hohokam, what is that I've heard about the Hohokam, of course most of us have. I didn't realize they were here for 1,000 years. Our Europeans, have been here for 250 years. Hohokam lived in our valley for 1,000 years. The archaeologists who write the most about the two doctors' fish call it the Hohokam millennium. So it's an interesting thing that I learned. Well, things were pretty quiet around here after the the whole culture broke up and people drifted back off into the desert until 1692, when another big change happened to our valley because Father Keynote rode in. Now, Father Keynote, his whole point was he wanted to evangelize the local people and turn them into good Catholic Christians, but he was a good guy, too. He also wanted to improve their life, and he brought them a lot of things to improve, particularly the way that they were eating. He brought criollo cattle. Now, I had known that Father Keynote brought cattle, but I was thinking Father Keynote riding along on his horse with a few steers and maybe a mama cow and a calf. Historians tell us he brought vast herds. He also brought cowboys from his ranch in northern Sonora to help the local people learn how to do animal husbandry. He brought the snips from his trees, his fruit trees, and his ranch, and began introducing European fruit trees. He also brought European vegetables. So things changed a lot, but one of the biggest things that he brought was spring wheat, what we call now Sonoran white wheat. This was a hungry time, like right now, for the local people. Everything they gathered and stored in the fall was pretty much eaten up, either by them or the vermin, and they were hungry. There were little green wild plants growing along the river, but that's salad. You know, that it really isn't going to hold you for very long. They really needed something substantial. And this winter wheat can be planted in December, and it becomes green and able to be harvested green and roasted now. Then later on in late May and June, we get these golden sheaves of wheat. But it's a big thing in the Middle East now. They roast the green wheat. It's called frekna, and it's gotten to be a big gourmet thing. But that was a major, major change that Father Keynote brought in. Now, we'll have to skip over very quickly the arrival of the Spanish at the Presidio in 1776. They brought up a number of things from Mexico. Many of the Spanish soldiers had Mexican wives, and so they brought up some of the kinds of Mexican food that we all love and is so typical of our area now. Then when Mexico took over our area and they took over the Presidio, we got even more Mexican food, and so that was wonderful. And then when the railroad arrived in Tucson, there were a lot of Chinese who had worked on the railroad. And at that point, with more people from the east coming in, they wanted fancier fruits and vegetables. And those Chinese had been farmers in China. They knew what to do. They rented fields down along the Santa Cruz and began growing strawberries and broccoli and peas and things like that all these people from the east wanted. So I'm going to skip over that from then to now and tell you about what's going on in Tucson today, which I think be interested in, and how so many groups involved with food and nonprofits are working together to make Tucson work. And it all starts with the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona. Now, we think of the food bank as handing out emergency boxes of food. And they do that. They do that particularly the last year to a huge extent. But they do some other very, very important things. There are about 100 small farmers on the edge of our metropolis, and even some small farmers right in the center of town, and you wouldn't even know what they're doing in their backyard. These small farmers cannot make a living selling 3 cabbages, 2 cauliflower, and 3 bags of carrots at a farmer's market. They can't do it. They need access to the bigger markets. The bigger markets are TUSD, that's serving school lunches to 86 schools. They need to go to TMC, which is buying huge amounts of food. Those places would like to buy local vegetables, but they really want to all work off of one PO, right? They can't be going out to each farmer, and the farmers can't be knocking on the back door of the hospital. So the food bank has acted as a middleman, and every year they get the farmers together with these big buyers, and the farmers say, well, this is what we're going to have seasonally, and this is how much we can produce. And these big buyers say, well, this is how much we want. And the farmers bring this stuff into the food bank, which has its big refrigerators and big refrigerated trucks. They coalesce it and send it out. So that's the way they work between to help these farmers. And the schools just love it. The schools make a big deal out of local vegetables. They even have the farmers come in and talk to the kids about it when they have local vegetables. Another way that the farmers get to the big restaurants, there's a young man named Eric Stanford, and he was a chef himself, and he has set something up called Pivot Produce. Now, he has relationships with these small farmers, and he'll talk to them on Wednesday about what they have, and they'll tell him. He has this whole list of all the restaurants who are interested in local vegetables. He emails them at night. They immediately email, the chefs email back what they want. He gets stuff and portions it out and drives around and delivers it. And the chefs that I have talked to really love those local vegetables. They say they have a flavor that's far, far beyond something that's been coming from wherever and been on a truck for a long time. They really love it. And it helps our local farmers actually make a living. Now, another thing that the food bank has done, they can pass out the canned goods and the dried macaroni and the dried beans, but people need fresh vegetables. The food bank thought, the best way for people to get fresh vegetables is for them to grow them themselves. So they, out of the South Country Club, they've set up gardens to teach people to garden. And anybody who wants to learn to garden can sign up free for these classes. Then they thought, well, maybe a way to get people really excited about gardening is to start them when they're little kids. So the food bank, a number of years ago, went out to schools and they set up school gardens and put in the irrigation and did the infrastructure and so forth. In some cases that worked really well. If there was a teacher there that knew how to garden and was really into it, in some cases it didn't work so well. So I want you to kind of hold on to that thought because we're going to come back to it. Then there was at the university a kid, a student, went to his geography teacher, and he said, oh, I want to do this independent study and I want to do something with the school garden. And she said, okay, he had a research project in mind. Well, the next semester, there were 4 kids who wanted to do that. Long story short, it's involved into a class. 40 students from a vast range of majors take this school and community garden class. They learn how to garden, then they go out to the schools, and they're young, strong backs. They dig, and they spread the manure, and they help the teachers, and they also do something that was kind of unexpected, an extra thing that came along that nobody really expected. A lot of these schools that they go out to is in low-income areas. This is the first college kid that some of those students have ever seen. And, a college kid. Well, maybe I can go to college someday. So it was an extra that came along that was really, really terrific. There's collaboration all over town. You've heard of Sherry Romanowski, who does Sherry's Desert Harvest. She's got the prickly pear jelly and the prickly pear syrup. Some years she has a lot more than she necessarily needs, but we've got these craft brewers who want to have local flavors in their brew. They can't just go out and squeeze the prickly pears themselves. It has to be pasteurized. It has to reach a certain sanitation level. So Sherry is providing prickly pear juice to the brewers. Now, we talked about the Sonoran white wheat. It was a big deal for a long time. In fact, it was the main wheat around the Southwest. But then the Green Revolution came in and it kind of fell out of favor. Now, when we don't have so much water, we're looking to heritage varieties that grow without so much water and that have flavor profiles, maybe don't have some of the bad things that these interbred wheats have. So now we're beginning looking at these heritage wheats. Don Guerra, who has Barrio Bread, we all know about Don Guerra, has been a great exponent of these heritage wheats, particularly this white Sonoran wheat. And he talked BKW Farms right up here in Marana, his huge, huge, huge wheat farm, to dedicating a small area for this white Sonoran wheat and some other heritage wheats as well. So Don can't use that much, but the local brewers love the stuff. And so they are an expanding market of this white Sonoran wheat. Interestingly, it was just in the paper a couple of days ago, these brewers who are using the white Sonoran wheat that Don Guerra got BKW Farms to grow, now they're turning, once they brew the beer, they got this spent grain. They're giving it back to Don Guerra, who's including it in his bread, and on Saturday you can go and get this wheat that has gone from the farmer to the brewer back and back to the baker. And that's just really typical of, I don't have time to tell you all the things. And the town is full of things like this. I know that, didn't you already have Barbara Eisworth from Ishkashita? Did she come in and talk to you? Yeah, and she has her refugees going out to harvest a lot of citrus fruits that wouldn't be used otherwise. And then they harvest a whole lot of citrus fruit and they can't use it all, but the brewers can. There's a brewer along Forbes who has a special craft beer that he makes at this time of year, and Ishkashita provides him the citrus that he needs. I think he uses orange. So this is what's happening in Tucson, and with our wonderful flavors and our Mexican food and our locally grown things that come from the gardens. And this is why we say when we talk about the UNESCO City of Gastronomy, Tucson tastes like nowhere else. Does anybody have any questions? Yes?
Would you please touch on the Mission Gardens
Oh, yes.
and native seed search?
Okay. We'll start with native seed search. And again, there's a big interaction here. Native seed search, 30 years ago, some young botanists were working for a group called Meals for Millions. And they were out trying to help Native Americans improve their gardening and their nutrition. And the people out there said, you know what, we'll grow your broccoli and your peas, but what we really want is seeds from the things that our grandfathers grew. And so that's how it started. They found a few farmers who were still growing the old-fashioned corn, the tepary beans, And they went to those people and they said, can you give us a few? We'll grow them out and then pass them around. And they did that. They went up to Navajo country. And 30 years ago, I'll tell you, there were no kids who wanted to be farmers. And these old farmers had these seeds that had been passed down for generations. Nobody wanted them. And I don't know what their kids were doing, but that Native Seed Search harvested all those seeds, kept really good records, came out, grew them out, and began offering them in a catalog, and then to anybody who wanted to grow them. It has grown quite large now. They have many, many, many accessions. If you are interested, you can look them up online. They have a beautiful facility off of River Road now. Beautiful walk-in refrigerator. I have lots of pictures of it in my book, and I have this whole complete story that I just told you in a lot more depth. Mission Garden. Way back, about Presidio times, there was a mission at the base of a mountain. And it never became a big, well, it wasn't even a full-blown mission. Father Keynote said about, but there was never a regular priest there. But there was a small mission, and they had a very large garden, very near the Santa Cruz. And so, a few years ago, when Rio Nuevo decided to put some money into what they called Tucson Origins Park, they gave some money to some of the people who wanted to redo Mission Garden. The county built a wall and they redid the utilities, and then it's mainly been a volunteer effort from them. Mission Garden now, you can walk in there and they have demonstration gardens from all of these different eras. There is a huge orchard with all the kind of trees that Father Kino brought. And there's a picture in the book of me and my husband planting one of those little teeny weeny trees. And today it's way 20 feet tall. They have a early agriculture garden. They have a hohokam garden. They have a Chinese garden. They're just starting a African-American garden. They have a big field of this white Sonoran wheat. I don't know, generally they have a big party and harvest the wheat and grind it with a horse and so forth, but we couldn't do that last year. I don't know how they're going to feel about doing it this year in May. But it's wonderful. They're open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, not Sunday or Monday. And you get to it, it's right at the base of a mountain. And people have lived there for thousands of years right on that piece of property. Does that answer?
Yep.
Okay. Do we have time for any others? No. I talked too long. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. It was wonderful to hear all that history about, the gardens and the growing of the Indians and all the harvest that they provided for us. We have a tradition in our club in which we like to have our keynote speakers sign a book that we donate to our Make Way for Books library. And today's book is There Was a Coyote Who Swallowed a Flea. I'll bring this to you to sign momentarily.
Yes, this is a native music.
All right. You guys, we have some more birthdays today to celebrate. 3. And so let's get these celebrations started. The first birthday person has been a member of our club since April of 2003. Her birthday was on March 21st. She was born in Newark, New Jersey and moved to Phoenix at the age of 3. She went on to graduate from U of A and got her master's degree from the University of San Francisco. Dot Krett is with DK Advocates and owns Archive Advantage, which which can convert your old photos or videos to today's technology, so you guys can, have those VHS or beta recordings put on a thumb drive. She also owns Patmail, which ships almost anything, anywhere, including, now I'm trying to remember all of this because we were talking when I was driving, so. The latest rover that's going to Mars, well, not Mars, Jupiter in a couple years. It's a model of it, it's not the actual one. But she actually got to pack and ship this one somewhere. Not to Jupiter, but somewhere. But the cool thing about Dot's business is that she employs people with disabilities as part of their vocational training, helping them to find long-term employment. One thing you may not know about Dot is that when she moved to Tucson, she somehow she ended up at a 4th Avenue Street Fair planning meeting. And she had experience from, going to years and years of street fairs up in Phoenix. But she actually ended up helping plan and develop the 4th Avenue Street Fair, and she also met her husband while planning these events. Please have our birthday girl, resident rapper, Dot Rap, come on up.
Hello to all my buddies scattered far and wide around the room. And thanks to all my pals at home who are watching us on Zoom. Our lives have been upended since this time last year. Lots of things have changed for us, but at least the end is near. Another birthday for me's arrived, another trip around the sun. We're distanced and we're sanitized. The new normal has begun. Let's hear it for the aging process. Oh yeah, right, I hear you say. Got more aches and pains and wrinkles. My hair's now 50 shades of gray. It's so exciting to see you all while eating your unmasked, but soon we can all hug again once we've all been vaxxed. In my last presentation, I was eloquent, astute, so why no laughter, no applause? My computer was on mute. Thanks for your support of my company's Archive Advantage and Packmail. We've scanned your slides and shipped your stuff. You've helped us to prevail. Heartfelt thanks to you, my Rotary friends. I'm so glad that I belong. After all that we've been through, my gratitude is strong. Thank you.
Dot, you should really do a mic drop after those. Where to go, Everybody's just going to be going, wah, wah, wah. All right. Well, the next birthday, he's actually been a member since January of this year. His birthday is this Friday on the 26th. He was born and raised in California near wine country. He's a graduate of San Jose State University, actually put himself through college, playing music and working at Meadhammer. He's a retired Navy pilot, worked at Lockheed, and went on to start his own woodworking business. That's pretty, very diverse right there. And now he's in the medical billing business with his wife, Lynn. Something you may not know about Dan DeVoe is that he's played the jazz guitar for over 60 years, focusing on the standards like Frank and Dean. So, obviously in his spare time, he enjoys music, singing, songwriting, woodworking, just to name a few. Come on up here, Dan.
Well, it's hard to follow Dot, let me tell you. Don't call her name now. But anyway, so happy to be a family member of the Tucson Rotary Club. Thanks to my lovely sponsor, my wife, and also Ann Marsh was instrumental in getting us into this club. As when we moved here, we rented a place in Sabino Canyon that happened to were over the fence, I'd happened to mention Rotary, and she goes, well, I'm a member of Rotary. And I'm all like, wait a minute, I gotta go get my bag. And the rest is history and present. But anyway, something kind of interesting about my birthday, March 26th, is that it has fallen on Easter Sunday for 3 different times in the 1900s. 1967, 1978, and 1989. All 11 years apart. I don't know if there's anybody in numerology out there, but and then the next time is 2068. So but perhaps the best thing about March 26, 1953 was when Jonas Salk announced the development of the polio vaccine. So that was on my birthday. Anyway, I'll keep it short. Thank you so much for welcoming me into the club. And
happy birthday. All right. And finally, last but not least, the next member's birthday we're celebrating is on March 31st. He's been a member of our club since May of 2001. Born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, a graduate of Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He worked for both the Red Cross and the United Way prior to his retirement. Now, something super, super cool that I think I might be one of the few that actually know this about Richard, because I asked him to tell me something. Is that after he graduated from college in 1968, he spent a year in Israel teaching elementary students from 13 countries how to speak English. His classes took place in a bomb shelter, so I am amazed and in awe of that little fact about you, and I would love to hear some of the stories that you probably have to share with that. Come on up here, Richard.
I missed you. It's been a year since I've been here. I've been under house arrest. I don't know about any of you or anybody else, but my kids, first I had a bracelet on, which I finally got off last week. My kids had drones over the front door. You remember back when your kids were teenagers and they said, Mom, Dad, don't worry about us. If you want to check in, we'll call on the cell phone. And then you finally realized that with the cell phone, you had no idea where they were. Well, my kids remembered that, and they've outsmarted their dad, because they never called me on the cell phone. They would call me on the landline, and if I didn't answer the phone, they would call the cell phone and say, where the heck are you? So finally got the bracelet off, so I'm able to come out. I'm officially vaccinated. The drones are no longer flying over the front door, and it's just great to be back with all of you. That year in Israel was an extraordinary year. It was shortly after the 6-Day War, and I had no experience, no training to teach English as a second language. And what I remembered was there were kids in the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, and if I wasn't prepared one day, they gave me you-know-what. And I remember these little kids, about 10 or 11, looking at me and saying, we've got to learn English because we've got to get into the right high schools and get into college, and you've got to do a better job. and I did. Well, I'm making a gift to the Rotary Foundation. Wonderful to be here, and I'm back.
Great to have you back, Richard. Great to see a lot of you guys who haven't been here for a while, so thanks for coming. Now we are going to be having a Paul Harris presentation. Scott Lon, Charlotte, Paul Harris, fellow recipients, come on up.
Like last week, isn't it joyous to see people you haven't seen in a year? Pat, you're back. Welcome, buddy. And who else hasn't been here in a year but our two lines right now? Shut up. Yeah, okay. Well, thanks, Charlotte Harris, for prepping me. I know you don't. So look, today we come closer to a world of peace and understanding through our two recent Paul Harris Fellows. Richard White is receiving his Paul Harris Fellow +3. Happy birthday, Richard. How was the dessert? Yeah, it looked really good. We usually don't get dessert here. I digress. Rotarians, there's more to know about this guy than what Jen told you. Which college has as its mascot the diplomats? Remember that. I was impressed with Franklin and Marshall College, which I had to Google. They're good in academics and athletics, and in their gym, behind the basket, like where Arizona Zoo lives, at Franklin and Marshall College, it's known as the Dip Zone. So, since then, Richard has been a diplomat. So look, I won't tell you that. Jennifer told you that. Or that. Richard's married to Barbara Harris. They have a son, Dan, who's in Melbourne, Australia. I hope what other Melbournes are there. And a daughter Jessica in Phoenix. In 1991, he moved to Tucson, and he's really made a difference here. Yes, 15 years with the United Way as a senior VP and American Red Cross CEO for 14 years. And he's been supporting the community in so many ways. Community organizations like Rotary Club of Tucson. And Jen told you exactly when he joined the club. And if you've forgotten that, it was just 4 months earlier than I joined the club. Okay. Tucson Chamber of Commerce, of course, Angel Charities, Public Relations Society, Chairman of the Jewish Community Relations Council, a reading seat coach for 3 years. He's currently serving as a board member for Tucson Village Farm, the Reed Park Zoo, and the Tucson Festival of Books, and as a mentor for the Fast Pitch program of social venture partners. And as you learned moments ago, he spent a year in Israel in some bomb shelter. When asked what accomplishment he's most proud of, he says it's the Red Cross program that provided homes and job assistance for over 1,000 homeless veterans. His favorite things to do are travel, tennis, reading, really serious travel. He traveled to 19 different countries in the first 5 years after his retirement. And when asked why he supports Rotary International programs, he shares, because Rotarians around the nation and the world forcefully address significant problems, and they persevere until they're solved. Thank you, Richard White, for your support of Rotary International, and congratulations to you. The other guy is Dennis Driscoll, and he also receives his Paul Harris Fellow +3. Born in Wichita, Dennis was a Kansas Jayhawk in his undergraduate years. How's your bracket this week? Well, look, later you did graduate studies at the U of A, and you gradually became a Wildcat fan. You see my shoes? Look. Yeah, when I lost my place, this is it. Talk among yourselves for a minute. So, I remind you and you all of the NCAA women's basketball tourney. A second round game tips off in just 3 hours. BYU versus Arizona Wildcats, whose head coach is Adia Barnes, an honorary member of the Rotary Club of Tucson. But I digress again. It's on ESPNU, which some of us might have a hard time getting. We'll figure it out. 4 o'clock today. Dennis achieved a remarkable career in physical therapy. He was the president and owner of Tucson Physical Therapy, established in 1984 with 5 locations here. And eventually, in 2015, he grew the company by merging it with Proactive Physical Therapy. And along the way, he also served as president of the Arizona Physical Therapy Association. And Dennis is now retired from active practice. He's married to Susan Driscoll. They have 4 kids between the ages of 23 and 52. And I was too polite to ask him to explain that. In addition, he has a strong tradition of service with civic organizations, including JTED, the Centurions, and most recently, he's been trained to be a Desert Museum docent, and when they reopen, he'll docent. He's a 31-year member of our club, and he shares, "I support Rotary International primarily for its role in the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace through a world fellowship of business professionals united in the ideal of service." He says he uses the four-way test in everything he does. And he says the four-way test is the golden rule, but with more detail for those of us who need it. Congratulations, Dennis, and thank you for your support of Rotary International. There's more. You know, it's our custom to select for each honoree a special gift, one which is remotely connected to their story and of little practical value. Richard, this is a great book for you.
What is it?
Oh, okay, thank you. It's the world's greatest buildings. This helps you remember all those places you've been when you visited those 19 countries in 5 years. And to find those places, oh, there's something else. It's some Post-it notes to help you mark the places that you plan to see next and the ones that you live. Oh, Dennis, we have something. Don't take it yet. This is also a great book. And it's since you were born and you grew up and went to college in Kansas. It's a book published by the state of Kansas 77 years ago. And it's titled New Music Horizons. And it features music originating from Kansas, probably composed there and published there. So congratulations. And let's have a round of applause for these.
We have some announcements. Bruce Jacobs, step up to the plate. He's going to talk about Home Hospitality Week.
You know, before I made my announcement, I did have a quick question for you, Richard. What's a landline? Is that one of those things that goes next to Mark Urban's Rolodex? Anyway, Home Hospitality, backed by popular demand. For those of you that don't know, we are looking for hosts. You can host as many as you want, 8, 10, 12 people. There is a budget involved. You can check with Dorina and I on that. It's going to be the 18th through the 24th. And no, you don't have to host from the 18th through the 24th. Just pick one night. Let us know how many people you would like to attend, what your address is, and we can get you any details. So for any further questions that you might have, just please let us know. So again, please let Dorina and I know who might be interested in hosting for Home Hospitality. Thank you.
And Chuck Sawyer going to talk about our new venue.
So there's a lot of folks here today. It's great to see you all, and folks that maybe weren't here a few weeks ago when we talked about it. We've had a contract renegotiations that are going on that we started a long time ago, 4.5 months ago. What we found out from the DoubleTree is that we don't know when or even if they're going to reopen. So we went from 9 venues that we were looking at to 6 to 3. So the committee's worked hard to find 3 great venues, and the month of April was focused on going to see these different venues. And so we've seen this before. The whole point of this is to get to kind of encourage you all to get out to see these venues, because we have coming up on April 7th, Hilton East. April 14th, we have the Tucson Convention Center. And April 28th, we have Westward Look. And just a thought on Hacienda del Sol, we love it here, but we expect to get much bigger again and double the size of the number of people we have. And we'll be doing lots at Hacienda del Sol. They were in the 9. But of these, we're going to talk about what's going on at Hilton East right now. So the thought is, We had two criteria. One is what's going to provide the greatest value to the membership. The second is which location is going to give us the best opportunity to grow going forward. When you think about Tucson, it's growing to the southeast, it's growing to the northwest, and it's growing downtown. So those are the things that we're looking at. So we're just going to take a moment here to give you a preview of Hilton East and get you thinking about it. Same meeting, we're doing the same stuff, just a new place. It's just down Broadway, if you haven't been there before, 767 Broadway down there. And as you enter it, on South Broadway Place, on the west side, there's a street that goes to the back. So if you haven't seen Hilton East before, hotels out there, on the right-hand side, just before you get to it, this is the west side, you can go back and park in the back. There's a huge lot in the back that makes it easy to get there, very close to where you're going. The room that we're going to be in, actually the atrium, it's not quite the room we're going to be in, but you can't go through that room to get to it if you park out in front, but it's been completely remodeled, is the point. In fact, all three of these properties have been remodeled and redone, and we'll talk about that in a second. But this is the room that we're going to be in. So it's a very nice kind of conference room. It seats up to 300 people. We'll be able to have more people there. We'll be able to have more people at each of these different venues. We'll have rooms that are minimum of 300 without COVID staffing. And so what to expect? So we have our speaker. We really want to get as many people there as possible because we're going to do surveys at the meetings in each location to get your feedback on what the locations are. And what's so important about you all being there is because everybody has kind of preconceived notions of some of these places. You've been to TCC, you've been to Western Look, you've been to Hilton East. They've all changed, and it's all about what they can do. They're going to do their best to get us great deals. They all have great deals. Pricing is all about the same. We're fortunate on that front. We're able to negotiate good things. But we really need your input, your feedback, and then when the whole process is over, we'll have a survey of the whole club as well to help advise the board. So are we online now for registration? We will be shortly online for registration, and we encourage you all to register to go to all three of these, and we look forward to a big decision that we have as a club. Bruce?
Will we still be limited to the 72 at those three locations?
No, we're going larger than, we're going to be able to go over that with those. So we have, we're especially, so we'll go larger than that. We'd like to. Within guidelines of Pima County and CDC and all the rest of that. So we're looking forward to it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're going to talk about the Triangle Y Ranch and our survey, or service.
Hello, everybody. Show of hands. First meeting back in a year. How many in the room? Cool.
Proud.
This Saturday, March 27th, at the Triangle Y Ranch. How many people have been out there before? Perfect. Love to have you again. We've got 7 more slots left. We have 7 slots. We're going to have 14 people, bump it from 12 to 14. We're going to be mostly outside. You can mask, et cetera, follow all the guidelines if you'd like. If you're outside, you're probably fine. It's 8:30 a.m. in the morning. Show up out at the ranch, which is 8 miles from Oracle, and work until 2 or quit whenever you want. We will have a snack for lunch. The ranch is expecting to take care of us, as they always do. We are having a following Saturday, April 3rd. So far, I have no sign-ups for that, so we may not do that. But I'm hopeful that we can fill 14 slots for Saturday. If you have any questions, please call me, 907-4983. I'll answer all your questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Dave, do we need to bring our own equipment, like chainsaws?
Nope, we have everything.
Just kidding.
But you always can bring your chains to Boy Scout camp.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're having our event April 24th. We'll have additional Rotarians and interactors from all other southern districts. We are really looking forward to come and join Boy Scouts and Boy Scout leaders who will be up there. You can come for the whole day. You also can come for a couple hours. The camp is 100 years old this year, and we're going to spruce it up. It's on the Sky Island, about 60 minutes from Tucson. Just for your information, it's 20 degrees cooler than Tucson, so wear a sweater. 9 miles below Ski Valley. So if you get to Ski Valley, you're too far.
Too far.
And the above sea level, it's about 8,600 feet. So how many folks have been to Camp Block? Oh, I like that. Okay, we're going to have a lunch, and I know already the scouts are planning hot dogs, hamburgers, on the grill. And I'm going to make Mama's chili. So come and enjoy the chili.
All right. Did you do blue badge presentation?
Yes,
as
we
well?
have a blue badge.
Go, Joe.
Good, you got this? Go, Joe. Okay, go Ernie. Come on up, Ernie. Our latest blue badge member is Ernie Montaigne. He and his wonderful wife, Sally, are both past district governors in Rotary. And we also have a gentleman that not only has a BA in geology from Rice University, but also an MS Industrial Engineering, Arizona State University, and a DSC Operations Research from George Washington University. Wow. He was in the U.S. Army Engineers from 1959 to 1981. He served in Germany, Greenland, Vietnam, Korea, and several stateside posts. His second career was defense analyst. He's over 20 years in Rotary. He's most proud of his ride to end polio. How about polio? Polio. That too. And polio. Serving as a docent at Arizona Sonora Desert Museum. Successful completion of Doctor of Science degree. And he's into cycling, travel, fitness. I bet you don't know, he was a professional ski instructor in the late 1990s. So, his best Rotary moment was induction into the Arch Clump Society, providing clean water, sanitation, and other humanitarian aid to 50 communities in West Africa. His first cycling century into the ride to end polio. He's active now with the Zone 26 Hall of Friendship that Ernie and I are going to be working on together a little bit later this year. And he really enjoys connecting with friends at Rotary International Conventions. He believes he's attended 16 Rotary International Conventions. So let's hear it for our latest blue badge.
Thank you so much, Joe. Joe has been my mentor, and I cannot think of a better mentor than Joe. He has helped me so much in this club. And I also want to thank Charlotte, who was my sponsor. Thank you, Charlotte, for helping me join this club. Thank you, Sally, for being a member of the club before I was. And I'm also pleased to have my grandson, Joshua McGee, here. Somebody mentioned landline earlier, and I want you to know that Joshua knows nothing about landline. He is a satellite communication specialist.
Congrats, Ernie. All right, you guys. I want to thank you guys for coming to the meeting today. Thank you, guests, for joining us. Thank you, virtual people. I hope you guys enjoyed the meeting. And, well, I guess you guys are real people.
Virtual people.
Okay. If you would like to donate to our scholarship cups, there is a cup at the registration table, along with those sympathy cards for Nina. Please, take a moment to sign those on your way out, and return your name tags to the basket at the registration table. Happy birthday, Dot, Dan, Richard, and congratulations, Dennis and Richard. Next week's meeting, you guys, it's an exciting one. It's past President Cliff Bowman. He's going to be presenting the results for our car show.
Yeah.
Fun meeting. Now, please join me for the toast. So, you guys, since we were talking about food today, I thought I might quote Julia Child. She had lots of interesting quotes. One of them was, "Every woman needs a blowtorch." But I don't think, blowtorches actually would come in handy for getting rid of the weeds at the work project. But I settled with, she said this one too, "How lovely life can be if one takes time to be friendly." So here's to being